The Flash 1 Minute War finds an alien colony speeding across the stars, its leader knowing that they have asked of much of them and they have given more, conquering with mercy, subduing them before they can fight back. The leader is told that they have reached their destination as the colony leader demands that the fraction descend on Earth. As in the West household, Wally remembers how he thought family was a burden thanks to his not so stellar parents, but that was until he got his own, promising to make it a safe place where he could be himself. Wally and Linda take some food outside to the family barbecue they're holding with Animal Man, Mr. Terrific, and his family and friends. Wally and family soon spot something up in the sky as elsewhere, Max Mercury tries to break the barrier into the Speed Force, knowing he didn't tell the others since he's not great at goodbyes. Suddenly he stops as he sees something pierce the clouds above him. In Central City, Hourman and Jesse Quick battle some villains when time suddenly stops, leaving Jesse the only one to move. She spots something in the sky as down at the docks, an arms dealer gets ready to show off his wares to some buyers, but finds Kid Flash waiting in the back of his empty van. As Wallace tells the men that they are under arrest, Impulse arrives, knocking the men out. Wallace isn't happy to see Bart, and not happy he swooped in on his bust, but Bart argues that these are bad guys and they need dealing with. Wallace thinks that the boy just wanted to show him up because he's Kid Flash and Bart isn't. But Bart knows that he's been Kid Flash before, but yellow doesn't really suit his complexion. The two speedsters spot something in the sky above them as Jay Meemaw calls for another drink at the bar he's in. Jay finds himself missing friends who have passed away since they were family, and when family dies, a piece of you dies with them. Suddenly, Jay finds everyone in the bar is frozen in time as he spots something in the sky outside the window. Barry meanwhile is on a date with Iris, who wants to talk about where their relationship is going, finding herself tired of waiting at home for him, hoping that he'll come back. And now Wally and Linda are on their third child. Barry thinks that she wants kids, and Iris does, but she wants to know if they have a future first. Iris casually proposes to Barry, showing him an engagement ring, but before Barry can do anything, time stops around him. He knows how it's like when he's running at top speed, and everything around him just fades away as outside, a giant ship slams into Central City, obliterating most of downtown. The building Barry and Iris are in is blown away, despite Barry using his super speed to try and save Iris. The rest of the Flash family are blown back by the shockwave around town as the leader of the fraction demands the wall be deployed. 8 arms fall from the spire, destroying much more of the city as a wall is deployed from them and the spire activates as the fraction begin their culling. Barry meanwhile frantically searches through the rubble of the restaurant, spotting Iris amongst the rubble, but it's too late as she has been killed by the fraction. The fraction decimates Central City in the split second they land, killing thousands as in that moment of time, Linda finds that Wally is okay and they are the only ones able to move thanks to their speed powers somehow switching on as soon as something hit them. They find Ira is able to move thanks to her speed powers as well, but Jai can't. Wally, however, notices that his son was awake as he used a giant tree to shield the family from the shockwave that hit the city, saving all of their lives. Wally vows to find out what happened as 20 seconds after landing, the spire spills out legions of tanks and soldiers. Impulse and Kid Flash meanwhile investigate the giant wall that has been erected, and Bart wants to find out what's on the other side. Wallace wants to find out why they can't come out of super speed, and they can't get over the wall as it's made out of something frictionless. Bart thinks that they can just vibrate through it, knowing that some of them are good at that sort of thing. Impulse runs straight at the wall and smashes right into it, unable to phase through it. The wall begins to open, but before they are spotted, Jay Garrick grabs the boys, pulling them behind some cover. Kid Flash spots the tanks and ships, thinking that this is some type of invasion, but Jay knows that this is a war. The Flash meanwhile speeds towards the destroyed city, hearing someone is alive, wondering how he can hear them. He finds that it's Barry who is cradling the dead Iris. Wally consoles Barry, wanting to take her body back to the house since it's not safe for them there. Barry thinks that because she's dead, there is nothing he can do and he would go back in time if he could, but something is using the Speed Force and taking up too much of its power. Wally wants to figure this out together, but he needs Barry's help. The heroes are soon spotted by a fraction ship, which tries to blow them away. Wally tells them to split up and the ship follows him, demanding that he lay down his weapons. Wally picks up and throws a piece of metal at the ship, blowing its wing off and causing it to crash into a building, hoping the invader enjoys his first visit to Earth. Jay and the others meanwhile come under fire from soldiers and tanks thanks to Impulse giving them a wave, thinking that they were somewhat friendly. Bart asks if they can just run out of there, but Wallace points out that the enemy is moving just as fast as they are, and they will be run down by the ships, which shoot some sort of EMP, which disrupts their powers. Jay suddenly warns them to get down, diving on top of the boys as their cover is blown away. The soldiers surround the heroes, who get ready to make their final stand, told by Jay that they will die tall and proud. Suddenly, the enemy's tank is flipped up onto the soldiers by Jessie Quick, who is glad that she found the heroes. She explains that Hourman and her were fighting Lionmane, and luckily Rick's Miraclo was still in effect, so he was saved from the devastation when the ship landed, letting Jessie hide him in his apartment before she came looking for help. Jessie reveals that the aliens are the Fraction, which she and Max Mercury encountered when they were searching the multiverse for Barry during the Dark Crisis. She didn't like what the Fraction did to the world they were on, as on the ship, the Fraction's leader learns the Earth has an abnormal number of metagenes for one planet, but they have begun collecting as many as they can find. The leader knows that the Empress always needs capable slaves, as he is told that they found some organic conduits. A whole lot of them, in fact, and a lot of them are in this city alone. He learns from his men that there are 5 conduits for the Speed Force in this city, and capturing them will make a fine wedding present for the Empress. He orders the Hunter to be awakened, demanding that it be swift in its work, as the Empress will be most impressed with the 5 conduits. Out in the desert around Central City, Max Mercury catches up with one of the soldiers who try to call in reinforcements. He pulls the man off the hoverbike, demanding that he tell him everything he knows. The man says that only the Fraction is forever, hitting his chest and killing himself with an electroshock. Max thinks that it's time that he find the others, as back at their West house, Linda and Ira move their frozen friends and family into the house, as Jay, Jesse and Bart and Wallace arrive home. Bart learns that Wally went into the city to help, and Impulse and Kid Flash want to go and help him, but the arriving Max thinks that they can't split up now. Bart knows that Max tried to go further in the Speed Force, and Max confirms he did, but then he felt something, but we'll talk about that later. Ira spots Wally outside as Wally and Barry return home with the dead Iris. Jay offers to take Iris since Barry has carried her for too long, but Barry silently takes her inside, knowing that he didn't carry her long enough. On the Fraction's ship, Odium is ordered to release the thing they captured on the Dark World. A heavy locked door is opened and Miss Murder is free to kill in the name of the Fraction. On the far side of the galaxy, at the home of the Fraction, a being says that their race was once one with the planet, living in harmony with the natural world, all under the rule of the Empress. At one point, the scientists of the world discovered a new power source, which when harnessed could leap their civilization a millennia ahead of anyone else in just a year. The Empress commissioned a machine which could pierce time and space and harness this energy. The scientists, however, needed a guinea pig, so Vel Anthro of the Empress's guard volunteered, hooking himself up to the machine and activating it. The machine, however, explodes with power, covering Vel in it. The scientists rush to his aid, but Vel moves as fast as lightning, accidentally cutting a scientist in half with his bare hand. The scientists are pleased with what they have found, and more of these conduits were constructed by the Fraction, giving more people the speed powers to help construct a huge armored covering around their planet, eating up all of their natural resources and forcing them to build outward, connecting all of their other planets and even the sun itself into its web. The need for more became too big, and they would need the life of 1,000 worlds to sustain their one. So the Empress called on Vel to go and take more worlds for the Fraction. Vel, however, had a price for this mission, demanding the Empress marry him if he returns successful, despite the palace guard almost killing him for his insolence. Vel's deal is agreed upon by the Empress, and the now Admiral of the Fraction heads out with his army to colonize and absorb many more worlds. Thanks to the conduit's powers, they could travel beyond space and time with an infinite number of places to gather resources from. Vel begins to grow the Fraction into a force to be reckoned with, but he begins to wonder if he should give up their lives for the planets that they are taking. He quickly puts that from his mind, wanting to take everything for their own survival, since the Fraction is a mercy and nothing will stand in their way. On Earth, Avery Ho is left at the mercy of Dark Wu, who takes the speedster's soul, sucking it into a gem which he uses to turn himself into a golden being. Wu says that once he leaves Earth's atmosphere and the gem is unlinked from the bonds of Earth, he can then focus the power through the sun and immolate Earth entirely. Suddenly he freezes in place as Avery passes out. Avery awakens sometime later, but Wu is still frozen frozen in front of her. She hears an ominous noise outside, and being that she is in a weakened state, she hides as some fraction soldiers speed into the room, surrounding the frozen Wu before carting him off. Avery decides to follow them to their hideout to see what they have planned, but unfortunately she finds they are loading Dark Wu onto a spaceship, which she hopes isn't going into space, since if Dark Wu gets out of the atmosphere, he will begin to absorb the sun into the gem and will destroy the world. She also figures that Wu has her soul in the gem, which she can't live without, so she has to go and save the villain. Avery jumps onto the ship before it takes off, but her hitting the hull alerts the soldiers inside, who see her on some view screens. The ship tries to shake her off, but Avery continues to try and get into the ship, finding the metal isn't something she can vibrate through. Luckily, inside the ship, Wu's gem explodes with power, blowing a hole in the side of the ship. Avery uses the hole to get into the ship and finds the guards trying to kill Wu, telling them to smash the gem, not Wu. Avery takes the guards down and uses one of their weapons to blast apart the gem, causing her soul to be transferred back into her body and Wu to return to his dark wizard self. Avery grabs the unconscious villain and escapes the ship, running down a building to the ground where she spots more frozen people, making her wonder what the hell is going on in the city. Elsewhere, a group of fraction soldiers tap an oil reserve by a river, finishing up ahead of schedule. Since they are finished, one suggests that they go exploring the creepy old mansion nearby. The soldiers head inside, finding frozen people mid-party, taking one of the people's cell phones and wondering why they all seem to have these square devices. Suddenly they hear a creak, making one note how they heard a noise moving this fast, it means something is there with them. The soldiers split up, with one heading into the kitchen where someone grabs a knife, stabbing and killing the soldier violently. The others try to get in contact with their teammate but keep moving through the mansion. One finds it's quaint how the humans still use paper as he hears a teammate scream, rushing out of the library he was in to try and find them. The soldier calls out to his friends but suddenly is knocked over by someone. The being says he finds it interesting he can understand the aliens, thinking they have some sort of translation device. The being plans on giving the alien his name and he'll let him go so he can warn his friends. The being is revealed to be Godspeed, who wants the alien to warn his friends about who is going to be the end of them and they cannot outrun him or vengeance. Godspeed stabs at the man as the squad leader frantically calls for them over the comms. In the far future, Jai West attacks the Fraction forces, using his strength powers to blow open one of their spires and revert the nearby soldiers back to real time, allowing him to battle them with ease. Jai remembers all of this is happening in the recent past as his brother has been kidnapped, but his battles taught him a lot about the enemy, but they are still an army and are tough even for Surge to deal with. Jai calls for the Flash, who is busy traveling from the multiverse into hypertime with a lead on their brother. Iray speeds through the different worlds, assuring Jai that Impulse told her that a friend was coming to meet him and to provide backup. Jai suddenly hears music as Gold Beetle makes her grand entrance in her gold bug ship, blasting the soldiers down. Beetle introduces herself to Surge, telling him that she's there to rescue him. Jai realizes that Gold Beetle is Lily, who demands to know how the man knows her secret identity. Jai knows that they were friends for a long time previously, revealing his own identity to the woman. Lily recognizes him as Jai from the Nexus Fair, as Jai says that he didn't think he would ever see the woman again, and it's good to know that she's alive. Lily suddenly kisses Jai, who thinks that the kiss felt like the day he got his powers, and it felt like destiny. Lily thinks that she should have kissed him when they last met, remembering she told herself that if she ever saw Jai again, she would kiss him. Beetle wants to know what the deal is with the Fraction, so Surge fills her in on the Speed Force army, telling her that she doesn't need to stick around, but Beetle wants to help Jai get his brother back, and she isn't about to let Jai out of her sight again, and besides, together there is nothing they can't do, and it's obvious that Jai likes her. Jai is left speechless, and Lily thinks that he is very likable. She makes fun of the idea of him keeping a journal, but Jai quickly reminds her that it's an action log, asking if Lily is always so sure of herself. Gold Beetle knows that she is, and he better get used to it since they have a lot of people to save.
Wally meanwhile tells the grieving Barry that Jay wants to talk with them.
Barry leaves his dead wife's side and meets with the family, learning from Jay that in his reconnaissance of the Fraction, they have found that their impenetrable wall can't be climbed or vibrated through, with the only way in via their tanks and jets. Wallace asks how they are moving at top speed and how the army is also moving so fast as well. Wally theorizes that the Fraction know how to use the Speed Force, except they have figured out how to use it like how they use solar power or radio waves, using it to operate their vehicles. Barry wants to get one of the vehicles so they can reverse engineer a solution to this, assuring Wally that he needs to keep himself busy. Linda asks what they're going to do with the kids and everyone frozen in time, needing a secure base to hide them. Wally has an idea about that as Impulse races off and Kid Flash gives chase, worried since when Bart runs off, everything usually blows up. Impulse admits to Wallace being right about that, telling him to stay behind, but if Barry needs one of the tanks, he's going to get one. Wallace gives chase as in the Fraction base, Admiral Vell screams at his men for failing to capture some speedsters. He wants to know where Miss Murder is, finding that she is out hunting and she hasn't failed them yet. He demands that they continue the culling, and since they cannot find the speedsters, they can find someone else of value to him. Kid Flash and Impulse meanwhile find a Fraction tank, speeding into the open back of it as nearby, Miss Murder and her hounds continue their hunt, catching the young speedster's scent and giving chase to the tank. The Flash family meanwhile use the frozen Mr. Terrific to open up Michael's personal lab to use as a base of operations. Max notes how Bart and Wallace are missing as the young heroes have managed to get themselves inside of the Fraction base. The heroes hired as two of Vell's men head for the tank, intent on going to find more speedsters before the Admiral has their heads. The heroes sneak into a grate in the floor where they find a stranger in a red box with electricity pouring through it. Impulse thinks that this is a battery and he wants to take it to study it. Vell meanwhile is alerted to his ship's energy source going offline as the heroes steal the battery, using it to ram some guards who have come to check out the area. As they hit the men with the battery breaks open and inside they find a boy. The being awakens, asking where he is as the heroes help him up. Miss Murder appears, letting loose her hounds to back the heroes into a corner. The prisoner reveals that Miss Murder can read their minds and they cannot escape, but Impulse thinks her reading minds is perfect, since all they need to do is not think. The heroes use this to their advantage, slipping by the villain and speeding through the ship as they try and figure out what to do next. The heroes run right into Admiral Vell, with Wallace sticking his tongue out at the villain and getting the man's attention, causing them to fire. The heroes dodge and the blast hits the arriving Miss Murder's hounds. In the confusion, the heroes hijack another tank nearby, unsure how to drive it, but the prisoner says that they are conduits. They just need to grab the wheel and they'll be able to drive. Miss Murder lands on the transport, trying to claw her way into the vehicle as Impulse asks if they have any weapons. Kid Flash hits a big red button on the console and a turret pops up on the roof, blasting Miss Murder. Admiral Vell orders his men to kill the conduits as back at the West House, Max and Wally look for the kids, when suddenly the transport speeds into the street with Wallace, Bart and their new friend aboard. Kid Flash shows Wally the prisoner they freed as Max tells Bart that it was foolish of him to go off alone. Wallace tells Max that they both thought it was a good idea and had it not been for Impulse's quick not thinking, they might not be alive now. Max is glad that they are safe as they open up the transport, wanting to see what the cargo is, discovering that they have a frozen Gorilla Grodd, Superman and Captain Atom locked in the back of the tank.
Back at the bunker, the super slowed Superman tries to talk with the Flashes,
who think this will take all day. Barry tells them that they were slingshotted to this speed by the Speed Force and in time, Superman might be able to catch up to them, but right now they must all look like a blur to him. The heroes go and see the prisoner they freed, learning from him that while it's fuzzy to him, he knows he's a corrections officer of sorts, and he was jumping through dimensions when he landed on a world that was overrun by the Fraction and was captured. He tells them that in his confinement, he learned that he was an organic conduit and that makes him more valuable than gold, used as a core engine for their machines that help propel them through the Speed Force. He also reveals that the gold devices on the Fraction's chest are Speed Force processors, and that's how they are all artificially using the Speed Force, and they are pulling too much of the Speed Force into one location, and it's saturating the entire planet and slowing everything down to a crawl. Jay asks why they can still move faster than the enemy, learning from Barry that it's because they are organic users of the Speed Force, and they can use it to their advantage. The prisoner doesn't think they stand a chance against the Fraction, and they need to get off world while they still can, since once the Fraction find them and use them, they will be more powerful than ever. He offers to retrofit the ship he saw in Mr. Terrific's lab to get away from the Earth, but the heroes refuse to leave their home. The family decide that in order to weaken the Fraction, they will attack the Spire in their base. The boy asks how they are going to get into the Spire, since they will never get past the force field or the wall, and if they do, they'll just be shot down. Wally has an idea, asking who's up for a little field trip. Iray meanwhile is reading comics to her frozen brother as Jessie comes to see her, assuring the girl that her brother is going to be okay, and she knows this because her parents are heroes, and if they knew she was in trouble, they would have moved heaven and earth to save her, just like Iray's parents are doing to save Jai, and everyone anyone else, since the heroes are heroes because they don't back down from a fight. Iris says that her grandma says that in Korean, that's called doshim, which means the way of the heart. Jessie tells her that that's all they can ever be and that the girl's heart is full of thunder and she can never lose that. The girls hug as the fraction prisoner watches, commenting that they are all so young. Linda arrives, telling him that so is he. He thinks that she is pregnant, wondering if she is scared for her child since they might get hurt, but Linda isn't scared, sensing that her unborn child is strong and is actually protecting her. The boy thinks that she is right, as at the speed lab, Barry finds the other speedsters have turned his lab into a mechanics workshop, fixing up Wally's old Camaro. Barry learns that they are going to install one of the Fraction's engines into the car and drive it Spire, and if it works like they think it will, an organic conduit charging the conduit should turn the engine into a bomb. Wallace thinks that it's suicide, but Barry thinks that this can actually work since the engine runs off the Speed Force and creates a friction barrier just like they do while running so they don't get killed by anything random that moves in their path. As Wallace and Bart argue over who can swallow a bug while at speed, Barry tells Wally the only problem is the wall, but Wally reminds him that that's Jay's mission to deal with, while they have their mission. Barry knows that this leaves Bart and Wallace, but the boys don't want to go back into the base since it's heavily guarded and Miss Murder is there. Wally demands that he be the one to do this, warned that he will need to phase before it hits him. The heroes get to work on the car as Jay and Max scout the base and Jesse and Irie take down a few of the Fraction forces. The heroes gather, finalizing all of their plans as Wally tells Irie to stay behind at the lab with Linda. The girl doesn't want to, but Jesse tells her that she needs to stand guard over the frozen heroes and their friends, which is a very big responsibility. Irie agrees to do so as Barry tells them that no matter what, they finish this today. Wally follows after him, asking if he's okay, but Barry knows he never will be again, something Wally wouldn't know since his family is still there, but Barry has nothing. Wally thinks that he has them, and Iris was his family as well, and he has been exactly where Barry was before, but it's not over until it's over, and it never is. Barry says that before the attack, Iris asked him to marry her, and they were married before but still remember it, but it was not the same until one of them asked the other. He reveals that he was going to ask Iris as well that very night, revealing the ring he had gotten her. He hugs Wally, telling him that he's going to make the Fraction pay for what they did and make sure they never do this again. Kid Flash and Impulse meanwhile ambush a convoy coming out of the base, getting the guard to call into the Admiral. The Flash attacks, blowing up the tank as the heroes speed into the base. Velva demands his tanks and flyers be sent in and his slider be readied as Barry tells Wally that it's time. Wally starts up his supercharged car, speeding towards the open wall as Max, Jay, Bart and Wallace hold open the gate with steel girders. The gate begins to close as Jay is stabbed and the heroes are captured by the Admiral and his men. Vel tells the injured Jay that they knew of the plans the heroes were concocting and Miss Murder is now infiltrating their base. Irie meanwhile hears a noise in the silent base and when she goes to investigate, she's confronted by Miss Murder. Vel wonders to Jay if their plan really was a full frontal assault, but Jay says that would have been just stupid as across the base, Linda and Jesse hold the door open as Wally speeds inside, dodging the turrets which can't hit the Speed Force powered car. Vel demands that they use the emitter so the Spire itself fires on Wally, hitting the car and obliterating it and the Flash, as Vel says that that's the problem with heroes. They put their heart and soul into everything, thinking that if they try hard enough it will turn out okay, but the real truth is the ones who win are the strongest. No one is stronger than the Fraction.
Irie meanwhile confronts Miss Murder and her hounds,
told by the villain that she can sense her unlocked potential. The villain grabs the girl, telling her that she has already lost as Jay has been stabbed and her father is dead. As the villain monologues, her hounds sense something in Superman as the Man of Steel slowly moves, grabbing onto their tails. The villain reads Irie's mind, finding it a blur of things that she was told by Jesse, and she keeps calling Jai's name. The villain throws her down as her dogs yelp, finding that Jai moved with his powers, falling onto the dogs, and since Superman had hold of their tails, they were ripped clean off. Irie tells Miss Murder that her brother can turn the Speed Force into strength, making him super strong, and it makes it perfect for the move they have been practicing called the Wrecking Ball. Irie throws her frozen brother at the villain and her dogs, smashing them into the wall. Miss Murder escapes down the hall as Irie thanks Superman for the backup. Linda meanwhile grieves over the death of Wally, but Jesse tries to get her to run, but it's too late as they are cornered by the Fraction. Linda wants to fight, but Jesse reminds her of the baby as Barry watches Admiral Vel capture Jay Jay, Max, Wallace, and Bart. He tries to think about what he can do as the ground begins rumbling beneath him. Vel thinks that it's thunder, but Jay tells him that it's his granddaughter as Irai arrives, telling Jai that it's just like the comics said, no one can stand in their way. Irai uses her super-powered frozen brother to smash the guards away, freeing her family. She tells the family she's decided what her codename will be, revealing that she wants to be called Thunderheart. Linda and Jesse, meanwhile, are loaded into a transport, learning the driver is actually the prisoner from before, who is there to free them. Thunderheart, meanwhile, destroys more of the jets as she regroups with Barry, asking where her father is. Barry is forced to tell her that Wally is dead, but he gave them a chance at winning this. She soon sees the fraction moving back into their base with the unconscious Jay, locking their gates behind them before she and Jai can get to them. Jesse and the other heroes arrive in the transport and Linda comes to get Irai, who is futilely hitting the wall to try and get into the base and free Jay. Linda hugs her daughter as in the Spire, Jay is beaten up by Admiral Vel, who demands he tell him where the hero's base is. Jay doesn't break, knowing last time he was captured, they hit him so hard his molars came out, and compared to that, Vel is a lightweight. Vel is told that Miss Murder has returned with the coordinates for the base, so the Admiral tells his men to attack it and to kill any who resist, wanting Jay to be left for the Doctor to play with, since they can use him as an organic engine. The heroes meanwhile regroup back at the base, when Barry suddenly gets an idea, speed writing equations all over a whiteboard as Jesse arrives, telling them that the fraction found Mr. Terrific's lab and they have captured all of their friends who were left there. Barry reveals to the family that he knows not just how to win the war, but to make sure it never happened in the first place. Jay meanwhile is introduced to the alien doctor, who thinks that he's in good shape for a man of his age, eager to cut him open and to see what makes him tick. Jay doesn't care, hoping that he can get some dental work done since he thinks the Admiral loosened one of his teeth. He spits a broken tooth at super speed at the alien, killing him as he frees himself from his binds with the alien's laser scalpel. Jay lures in the guard from outside, disarming him and grabbing his gun, figuring it's time for the fraction to see what Jay Garrick can really do. Later on, Jessie thinks about the origin of her mother's hero persona, Liberty Bell, and how the Independence Hall bell rang and gave her mother powers that she believed stood for good, peace, and truth, and it gave her the power to free the imprisoned and help the downtrodden. Jessie dons her mother's old costume, finding the world doesn't need Jessie Quick, it needs Liberty Bell. Liberty joins the rest of the Flash family out on the battlefield, where Barry tells the team that it's 2 miles from the center of the Fraction's facility, and only 2 miles before they make things right. At the Fraction base, the Admiral is told that 70% of the world's resources have been collected, and while they have many of the metahumans, the Kryptonians are still causing them problems. Admiral Vel hopes his men can deal with it, wanting the captured Jay to be ready to be converted into a battery. Suddenly, he is alerted to the Flash family nearby, confused as to why they are just standing up on a building nearby watching them. Linda asks Barry if he's sure about this, and he knows the answer remains the same as the first time she asked. Earlier, Barry explains his plan to the team, telling them that they have no choice to do it this way, and he refuses to leave despite the Fraction prisoner saying that they should. Impulse loves the plan and Jesse wants to hear it again, so Barry explains that the spire at the center of their base acts as an antenna channeling Speed Force to the Fraction soldiers wearing the artificial conduits. But that's not the only antenna out there, since they too are Speed Force antennas. Barry draws it out on the whiteboard, saying that since the Speed Force is dissipated throughout the world like a cloud, they are processing some of it, but not like how they are when they run at normal speed, and that's why they can't reach top speed and can't go back in time to fix this. But if they stay together, they can become a concentrated hotspot for the Speed Force and concentrate enough energy to protect them from anything the Fraction throws at them and increase their speed as well. Wallace thinks that this is all well and good, but how do they get over the frictionless wall? Barry says that's where Jesse Quick comes in, as in the present, the Flash family speeds towards the wall. The Admiral thinks that they are fools to try and attack, ordering some flyers to be sent out to welcome them. The heroes spot the flyers heading towards them, hoping their friction cushion will work. The flyers fire and the shield works, surprising the Fraction, who report they almost are at the wall. Barry tells Liberty Bell to take the lead, so Jessie speeds at the wall, using her super strength to smash right through the frictionless wall. Earlier, Max asks how they are going to destroy the spire, but Barry reveals that they aren't. They are going to supercharge it, and in doing so, it will supercharge the Fraction's connection to the Speed Force, making them too fast. So fast that they'll be thrown back through time and make it so that this never actually happened. Wallace is eager to get going since it means that Wally will be brought back to life, hugging Irai, who's excited to see her father again. In the present, Vel demands that his soldiers take down the speedsters at any cost as the heroes are caught in the antenna's blast. Earlier, Linda confronts Barry, knowing that he is keeping something from them, reminding the hero that she was an investigative reporter, so she knows when someone is lying to her. She believes it has something to do with Wally and that he won't be coming back, even if they manage to time travel the fraction off of the Earth. Barry explains that Wally is not like any other temporal being, since they are part of the Speed Force and there is a reason that they can remember the universe being reborn countless times. Linda figures out that while Wally is separate, that means whatever they do to the fraction, it won't affect him. Barry apologizes as Ira comes by, seeing her mother is crying. Linda quickly takes her out of the room, assuring her that she's crying happy tears. She takes the girl to find a good hiding spot for Jai while they rescue Wally, as in the present, Jay crawls through the fraction base fence, dodging some guards who are headed towards the hangar to meet with the insurgents. Jay gets the drop on them, blasting the villains and heading towards the hangar to meet the Flash family. The Flash family meanwhile vibrated through the ground into the hangar before the antenna can hit them, beginning the next phase of their plan. They are told by the prisoner who they freed that they need to head through the hangar and down 2 levels. The team are confronted by the Admiral and his soldiers, told that they are to come with them and be given a purpose in their lives, since being living batteries is better than death. Barry tells the team to wait there as he spots Jay hiding in the vent behind the Admiral. The villain demands the heroes choose between either living or dying, but Barry chooses the third option, to fight. Jay gets the drop on the soldiers, blasting them with his energy rifles as the family move forward. One soldier fires at Linda, but the boy pushes her out of the way, taking the full force of the energy blast. Linda tends to his wounds, telling him that that's the second time he's saved her, so maybe he shouldn't try for a third. Miss Murder confronts Ira, reminding the girl that she said that they would meet again, but this time she doesn't have her brother with her. Flash meanwhile battles Vel, screaming the villain took everything from him. Vel doesn't think so, at least not yet, as he kicks Barry out of the hangar, demanding to know what the hero thought he could achieve there, since they have taken everything this world has to offer, so when they leave it, it will fall apart and the Flash and his friends will have died for nothing. But if they come with him, he will live on in the service of the Empress on a more important world. The Flash is surrounded by flyers, told to give up, as elsewhere, Wally West wakes up in the care of Gold Beetle, who welcomes the startled hero to Time Point, or as she has recently started to rename it, Planet Flash. Gold Beetle tells everyone to get back into the Gold Bug and to get a conduit vest, since they'll go back to their times once they have finished this. Wally thinks that he is dead, and Beetle knows that he was actually supercharged with the Speed Force and dematerialized so he could be spit out of the Speed Force, a defense mechanism of the Force it developed after the Surge incident. She reveals that when he was spat out, he landed outside of time and space in Planet Flash. Wally asks how others like Lagoon Boy and Commander Steel, people he killed during the Sanctuary incident, are living. Gold Beetle says that she followed Wally's orders back when he was in Bart's body and saved everyone, jumping back in time to grab them just before he exploded, but Roy was too close to the surge to be saved. But it turned out okay since he's back though. Wally is still trying to figure out how, but stops himself since Earth is being attacked by the Fraction, but Beetle already knows that, hence why they are getting ready to help. Wally is unsure that the team understands this since the Fraction move impossibly fast, but Beetle of course has that covered with the conduit harnesses she took from the Fraction and had Fair Play adapt them so they could use them, but only for 1 minute. Back on Earth, Admiral Vel tells Flash to give up his fight and he'll be put into a battery pod and thawed out every 100 or so years for torture, and it will continue that way for eternity. Flash attacks, punching the villain and telling him that he isn't going to be beating them today or ever. Flash rips the villain's conduit vest off, freezing him in place. Flash regroups with Jay, telling him that they have to get to the engine room before the rest of the army arrives, but they need a distraction. Suddenly the team hear the La Cucaracha song play as Gold Beetle, Flash and the other heroes arrive. With the distraction in place, the Flash team make their way to the engine room, but Miss Murder corners Ira, surrounding her with her hounds. Caveman Flash and his raptor comes to Thunderheart's aid, attacking the villain with his raptor friend and taking out the hounds. Wally and Gold Beetle meanwhile commandeer one of the Fraction's tanks, using it to blast their way through the army and get closer to the base. Commander Steel, Lagoon Boy, and a few of the other heroes, however, suddenly freeze in place, their harnesses unable to keep up with the Speed Force. Miss Murder demands that the frozen caveman Flash and his raptor be killed, but the other faction members want to keep the frozen heroes in place and turn them into batteries. The Admiral demands to know where the organic conduits are as Wally and Gold Beetle blast their way into the base in the tank, arriving at the spire. Before they can move any further though, Gold Beetle freezes in place, leaving Wally to run the rest of the way and to get through the destroyed base on his own. Admiral Vel meanwhile is revealed to his men as an organic construct, turning his men against him. Vel reminds them of who he is and how he is betrothed to the Empress, but they don't care, calling him nothing but an organic slave, and the Empress must not know he's a conduit. Vel reveals that she and the science people discovered the Speed Force and it changed him, and the Empress knew he could use his gift to help their people. The soldiers attack, intending on killing the blasphemer as Flash family make it into the inner workings of the Spire. Flash explains that they'll need to generate enough of the Speed Force to overload the Spire and the artificial constructs, hoping that it will work. Max knows that it will since that's why they are there. Tells the family that a while ago he tried to break the Speed Force barrier, and each time he leapt forward in time until he landed in the present time with the family, and he has not been able to move beyond them, and now he knows why. And it's the same reason that he knows that Jay has stayed alive this long and Bart has come back to this time, and why the Fraction prisoner was free to help them, since something wanted them all there for that moment so they could stop it together as family. The family head off together as Admiral Vel finishes off the last of his traitorous men, as Wally enters the building behind him, noting that Vel moved through the soldiers faster than they could think, meaning he's actually organically connected to the Speed Force and he might be more powerful than him. Wally gets ready to save the day as Vel finds the rest of the family speeding around the spire, realizing they're trying to generate enough power to send them back through time, but that only works with a connection to the spire, a connection that is easily cut. Wally attacks, kicking him from the platform as Vel calls Flash arrogant, angered that he has the nerve to think he could beat him, since he is the strongest conduit there is. Wally agrees, but he's not the smartest as he kicks the villain into a battery stasis pod, realizing what the pod is, which means he's about to help the heroes send every Fraction member back in time, and when they all go, all the hurt and death they brought is going with them. Wally knows that the villain will be left alone there on Earth as the Fraction are blasted by the antenna, sent back through time, and everything is reversed. Wally explains that he'll stay there because he's an organic conduit and exists outside of time and space as a paradox, and while someday he might get thawed out of the pod, the hero guesses that won't happen very often and won't be for a very long time. 1 minute earlier, the Fraction call for Admiral Vel, unable to find their leader as they approach Earth. One thinks that him not being there might be some sort of planetary defense mechanism, causing them to abort the mission and to head back to their homeworld to discover what has happened to their missing Admiral. They know that they can return soon enough though, since they have all the time in the world. The Flash family meanwhile appear on a bridge, reuniting with Wally. The family ask where Barry is, and Wally thinks that he's got some unfinished business to deal with. Elsewhere in the city, Iris gets ready to leave her dinner, angry that Barry would just run off as Barry returns, telling Iris that he wants to grow old with her and have kids. He tells her that he loves her and nothing in the world will stop him from ever loving her from now until forever. The next day, Gold Beetle and the heroes of Planet Flash say goodbye to Wally, who asks if they want to stay. Beetle knows that she can't since Jai is there, and when he and her first meet, it's something special, and she doesn't want to ruin those memories, and besides, she has to drop the others back into their timelines. Linda meanwhile learns the name of the prisoner they freed is Wade, saying that he was named after a cool relative. Linda knows that Wally has a cool uncle named Wade, but thinks this kid is way cooler. She hugs him, hoping that he gets back to the family that misses him, as she and Wally return to the big family cookout. Later on, Max Mercury is joined by Impulse in the desert, who thought about what Max said about them all being there to fight the faction together, and now that it's over, maybe they can finally cross over or go forward. Max knows that's the idea, but he can't ask Bart to join him. Bart knows that he's not, since they are family, and wherever Max Mercury goes, so does Impulse. Bart thinks that this could be fun, and Max agrees as the speedsters blast off into the sunset.